It's been a really good day for me. I've been here for the 2 days, and yesterday was a bit of a student day, and it was really amazing to see the students being so engaged and wanting to know and learn more and really interested in getting into tech. And this is what my 20 or 30 minutes is going to be about: why the tech industry needs you. And it's many of you are already in the tech industry, I'm sure. So this is more about why the tech industry needs you and your friends and your cousins and your brothers and your communities, because it's really important. I'm just going to set some context first of all. Before I do that, actually, I'm just going to talk to you about the tech industry in general. So the tech industry is a $5 trillion industry globally. It's a huge industry, and it's growing at somewhere, it's forecast to grow to 104% from 2018 all the way through to 2023. It's huge. It's one of the fastest growing businesses in the world, in any market, in any sector. And almost 80% of businesses across North America and Europe say that they're going to actually spend more on IT and technology in the future. So most organizations are betting their future in terms of value on driving value in their organizations using technology, using digitally enabled capabilities. So this industry is fast growing. It's one of the fast growing markets, and it needs you. And we've just heard from the last speaker, it needs you. It needs your friends, it needs your cousins, it needs your aunties, it needs your uncles, it needs your brothers and sisters in this industry. There was a saying that recently, my CEO in ServiceNow, a guy called Bill McDermott, he's the CEO of ServiceNow, and he said this, I'll read the statement: "A diverse, equal and inclusive culture and the way we live our values is what will keep us on the top." So my CEO believes that the only way that he's going to drive this organization, ServiceNow, to be the best organization on top of its game, on top of its market, is through diversity, through equality and inclusiveness. He believes that. And there's a reason for that, which we'll talk through. So my name is Alonzo Blackstock, by the way. I'm a senior director in ServiceNow. I've been in ServiceNow for 3 years. I've been in this industry, in the tech industry, since I was 18. So as you can tell, I'm about 25. And I'm really, really passionate about this industry. It's a really great industry to be in. And in the next 20 minutes, I want to share with you what I hope is just five, come and listen to me, just 5 compelling reasons why you should work in tech, and you should actually encourage others to work in tech. And at the end of this, I'll make sure I'll leave some time for any questions that you may have. So first thing, number one of the first of 5 reasons why you should work in tech and why you should encourage people to work in tech is because data is the new oil. Data is the new oil. Have you heard that before? Data is now the most essential resource when it comes to the technology economy, just as oil was the most essential resource for the industrial economy. Data is now that new economy. Just like oil, information can be extracted from data, just as energy is extracted from oil. But there's a difference, right? So with oil is finite. There's only so much of it in the ground. There's only so much of it you can reuse to create energy. There's only so many times you could take that oil and make energy from it. Whereas data is absolutely infinite. The possibilities are absolutely endless when it comes to data. Whether you're going for a run, whether you're watching TV, whether you're just doing nothing, just sitting in your car, actually virtually everything that you do ends up with a digital trace, ends up as data, raw material that can be used in a data distillery, as it were. Data is everywhere, it's infinite. And you think about cars, watches, the internet, the volume of data that we collect that people are collecting on what you do and on us is vastly increasing. I just read this report that said we know about self-driving cars. If for any of you that don't believe it, self-driving cars are coming soon. In fact, they're here. Self-driving vehicles are here already, and it's estimated that self-driving vehicles generate around about 100 gigabytes of data per second. Absolutely exhaustive, amazing. So data is really the new currency. It's the new oil. You think about things like artificial intelligence, such as machine learning and other things. They're just collecting more and more data, and they're using then that for information. They're using that to create algorithms that can predict all sorts of things in terms of when the customer's ready to buy, when the engine on an airplane needs servicing, or when a person is even at risk of a disease. Data is really a powerful new source of information that's really going to actually drive all of the economies, both now and in the future. So data is the new oil. The best place to be in the industry is where data is at. That's where the IT industry is. That's what the tech sector does. That's the first thing. The second thing is a challenge, right? So we've got this explosion of data, this explosion of technology, and we all see that in our everyday lives. But the big challenge that the tech industry has is that when we, particularly in like business-to-business environments, when we provide technology to large enterprises or enterprises in general, they don't seem to make or to get the value that they expected. So somebody goes in there and sells them this great new solution, this great new technology solution, but it doesn't quite deliver the value that they expected or the outcomes that they desired or what was sold to them. And there was a report that shows that only 30% of enterprise organizations actually get the value of what they bought. And that's a really, really low and poor number for the tech industry. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is that it's not just about buying the new technology. It's about, and the new technology on its own doesn't bring the innovation that the company needs. There's a combination of the people need to be trained, you need to have the right processes, you need to maybe rebuild or reprocess your workflows in your organization, as well as then having the right technology with the processes enabled with the people. So it needs a combination of things to be successful. The second thing is that technology always needs updating. It needs to be updated, it needs to be maintained, it needs to be maintained to be secure, particularly in this world, and it needs to be constantly maintained to be fit for purpose. There's a lot of work to do to maintain the solution in the system. And then the third thing is that there's just a shortage of people in the tech industry. So businesses, we see this in our organization, businesses are struggling to find the skills, the people that they need with the right skills to help them on that transformation journey in terms of making sure that the technology and the solution delivers the outcomes. So customers are really struggling to really get the value of what they bought, and that's what I show here, the value gap. There's a value gap between what they expected from what they purchased versus what they have actually got. And that creates a real challenge and an opportunity. So businesses need more help from us in the industry to actually kind of like reduce that value gap so that they get the outcomes that they need. Does that make sense? So that's the second thing. The third thing, why this is a great place to be and why the industry needs you is because actually tech industry and tech organizations have been consistently voted as the best place to work. This is an example here from Glassdoor, where they ranked a number of organizations in the UK, and 19 of the 50 companies ranked the best place to work in the UK. 19 of the 50 were tech companies. And number one was ServiceNow. I'm grateful for that. That's really, really great. We're doing something right in ServiceNow. But that's a really, the industry, our industry is doing as much as they can to make the organizations that we work in great places to work. Flexible work patterns, benefits, training, learning, continuous learning. They're doing a lot to try to actually make sure that we're seen as a really great place to work. And that's because we want to attract more people in the industry. So I'm just going to recap. Number one, the reason why this is the industry needs you. Number one is because it's the right place to be. Data is the new oil. Number two, the reason why it's the right place for you is because there's a gap. The customers, organizations want technology to innovate their organizations, but there's not enough skills and people to do that for them. And so this is the right place for us to be, to really kind of like try to bridge that gap that organizations have. And number three is because it's a great place to work. It's been proven, not just in the UK, but in the US and everywhere where Glassdoor do their surveys, that tech industries tend to come out on top of that great place to work. Does that make sense? Number four. The other reason why the tech industry absolutely needs you is because we've got a bit of a challenge in the tech industry, in as much as there's kind of like not enough of us in the industry, and the only way to solve that problem is to have more of us in this industry. The tech industry needs you. If you look at some surveys, this is an example of the distribution of employees focused around race and ethnicity based on career level. What you'll see here at the top of organization, there's only 2% representation. Now, how many people know? You're going to have to kind of like try to tell me this. What percentage in the US? What percentage of the US is of people of color, of black Americans? Anybody know? You're going to have to mime it. What would it be? Anybody know? Thank you very much. It's 13. So 13% of the US community is black, and only 2% of executives in the tech industry are black. So there's a real gap. So there's not enough representation of people of color, of black people in our industry in executive levels. It's the same thing for senior managers. It's about 3%, managers 5%, professionals 6%. Nowhere near enough. Not representing any community. We have difficulty finding or getting this information in other places outside of the US. There's a large parts of European countries that don't collect this data for whatever political reason we know about. It's hard to collect this data in a lot of places, but we know just by seeing and our eyes that we have a similar problem here in the UK. We have a similar problem across Europe. I was appalled. I shouldn't say this out loud, but I was appalled when I first joined my organization that we hired, we needed to hire a salesperson in Johannesburg in South Africa, and we managed to find the one white guy that was in South Africa amongst 99% population of black people to take that job. So we still have a challenge in terms of having the right balance of race and ethnicity in our organizations. So that's why we need you. We need more of you. We need you in our organizations at all levels to really, really fill those positions. And the way to solve that, there are a number of ways to solve that. But the one thing that we can do is hire more black people. I'll tell you this story. When we all remember George Floyd a couple of years ago when we were in lockdown, and ServiceNow at that time went through a kind of like an introspection, a moment where we really kind of like we were feeling and trying to understand what was going on and how it affected us in our community at ServiceNow. And we did a lot, like a lot of communities did, to try to have more conversations and talk. And one of the things that we were blessed to do was that we brought in some speakers in our organization to talk to us about what was going on and what we could do. And one of those speakers that came in to our organization was a guy that you may know by the name of Barack Obama. And I was like, when we heard that Barack Obama was going to come to speak to us in our organization, everybody's like, I'm there. It was in lockdown, so it was over video conferences, but like I sat down at my seat. I was there 15 minutes before. I had my popcorn. I was ready for this, right? We had Barack Obama that was coming to speak to us. And Our CEO Bill McDermott had a really great conversation with him about, what was going on and how could we make sense of it. And then our CEO started to talk about some of the things that we had done in ServiceNow to really kind of like help play our part in terms of changing things. And we had done quite a lot. So we had started to fund historically black colleges, HSBUs in the US. We had started to create funds to allow people of color to find easier ways to get mortgages so they can fund their houses. We started some next generation programs so we can actually train some people in our communities to become engineers and coders, and we've done a lot. So Bill was, waxing lyrical about all these things that we'd done in our organization to help make this world a better place. And then he asked a question to Barack Obama. So Barack, what else can we do? We've done so much. What else can we do? And Barack Obama sat back and he thought, and he said, you can hire more black people. That's exactly what he said. And I think there's something about that in terms of trying to use our own power and control to hire more black people, because what you do is when you bring more people into our community, you kind of like bring in more wealth into other communities, and that feeds of itself. So I think hiring and making sure there's more of us from our communities in our industry, in this tech industry, is a really, really critical factor. You can't have belonging if you don't have inclusion, if you don't have people in the organization, right? You need to have that diversity. You need to have people in the organization in order to have inclusiveness, in order to drive and strive towards belonging. So that's number 4. We really need you because there's not enough of you. There's not enough of us. I want to walk into my office and see more people like me. I want to have the aspiration to be the next leader because my current leader is like me, and that gives me hope, that gives me confidence, that gives me faith. So that's number 4. I think we all agree with that one. Number 5, this is one of my favorite sayings. This is one of my favorite sayings from a Stanford University professor. Everyone has blind spots. Diverse teams are better at seeing the full horizon of opportunities and consequences. What does that mean? So we all have blind spots. We all have biases. We all don't know what we don't know, right? And therefore we navigate the world and we do our job based on our capabilities and our expertise and our experience, but also based on our own blind spots, our own biases. And that is, a good thing and a bad thing. And I think one of the things that makes that a challenge is that if you have a homogeneous team. So if you have a homogeneous team, then chances are those blind spots are going to be very, very common. Those blind spots or those biases are going to be, or those experiences that you don't have, or the things that you don't know what you don't know, are going to be very, very common. And that doesn't provide an environment for a full shared knowledge of the possible, of the possibility of innovation or the possibility of change. And so what we've done in a lot of the tech industry has done is try to be more attractive to people of color, to people like us. And that's starting to make some progress, not enough progress. So we end up with, people that join our organization that are diverse. So we end up with these diverse teams on the left. But here's the challenge, right? So in the homogeneous team, the common knowledge, the common language, the common way that they see the world is in blue. The problem that you have is when you have diverse teams, you have a bigger surface area across those concentric rings, but the commonality amongst those rings is shrunk. It's in the middle. So there's less commonality when you have a diverse team with a diverse team on its own. Because we may work in the same office, we may work in the same organization, but there's not a common understanding, there's not a common body of knowledge. And that means that it's still hard to get stuff done, it's still hard to drive organization. I said earlier on that I've been in this industry since I was 18. I know I don't look that old, but I really am. One of the first things that I remember when I was in this industry, I remember the times when I was sat in rooms and I was talking about something or I shared an opinion, and it was just lost. No one seemed to hear me. No one seemed to even figure out what I was talking about. It just didn't seem to land. And then we have the experience, like, 20 minutes later, someone says the exact same thing, and all of a sudden everybody says, that's a wonderful idea. And I had so many of those frustrating types of meetings and sessions. And in the end, what happens to me and what happens to a lot of us is that we either do two things. One is we start to withdraw and not come into the workplace as our whole selves, or we start to mimic, or we start to look at that and think, okay, that is what I need to look like or need to be like. We've heard about covering. We try to turn up in a way that we feel that they want us to turn up like, whoever they are, and therefore we change ourselves. So we either withdraw or we try to mimic. But in both of those circumstances, what we lose is our own authenticity. We lose the thing that makes us unique in that conversation, in that room, in that organization. So it's a real responsibility for me as a leader in my organization and for my organization to actually go to the right-hand side in terms of building inclusive teams, to actually get to a point where people can come into our workplaces anywhere in the tech industry, anywhere in our communities as their whole self. They can come as they are. They can share their opinions and their views and their perspectives, because those views, those perspectives, those experiences, when they're shared in a common store of knowledge, make innovation much more effective, make innovation much more valuable. The people that were developing the smartwatches that did sensors back in 10 years ago didn't necessarily think that it would be a difficulty to actually get those sensors to work on black skin. Maybe most of them that were developing that weren't black, and maybe they didn't even think about how this would work on other skin types. Having that inclusive team where everybody's able to share, everybody feels authentic and is comfortable to share what they know and how they feel and how they experience things, would have said something in that room to say, hang on a minute, let's think about this. Maybe we need to put something stronger or something different into the system to actually make sure that technology, that innovation was much more inclusive. That's one small example of why we need much more inclusive teams, where everybody turns up as they are and shares their knowledge and their experience to make everything better for everyone. That's a really critical part of what we are trying to do at ServiceNow. What we're trying to do, I think, more generally in the tech industry where I've worked, to try to actually make our places of work better for everyone. And so I think that's a fifth reason to work in the tech industry, because the tech industry has this challenge where we don't have enough people, don't have enough skills, and so we're doing as much as we possibly can to broaden the talent pool that we look for and make the talent that comes into our organization feel as comfortable as they can be to do their best work in ServiceNow or anywhere in the tech industry. That's the fifth thing. So I'm going to recap what those things are. First of all, the reasons why you should work and encourage everybody to work in the tech industry. One, data is the new oil. This is an industry that has infinite possibilities. We've only really just started. I talked about the self-driving car, 10 trillion terabytes of data per second. How many self-driving cars are going to be? We're going to need that. Organizations are going to use that data to innovate with information, to create algorithms, to provide new service to all of us in terms of what we experience right across every industry, whether it's healthcare, whether it's bio, whether it's pharmacy, whatever industry you can think. Data is going to be the central key component to drive value for organizations, to drive value for you and your daily experiences. It's a real place of innovation. So that's one reason. The second reason is we need We need you because there's not enough people in the industry that is helping customers get the skills that they need to get the value out of technology. Most organizations are still behind when it comes to their technology innovation for their organizations because they don't have the skills. There's opportunities for all of us. The third reason is because we're a great place to work. We're doing as much as we can to offer flexibility and other things to actually make this place, these organizations, a really great place to work. The fourth reason is because we need you. We need more diversity because we know, as Bill McDermott says, that with diversity comes a richer organization, comes more innovation, we win. We need diversity. That's absolutely clear. There is no question about that anymore. There's no point of discussion where that's an argument. It is absolutely real. And the third thing is that we know that diverse teams win. We know that when we have diverse teams, we can do far more and far greater things than if we were alone. So I hope you all agree with that, and you're going to go back to your homes and tell your family and your friends and your mother and your great auntie that this is the place to be. And I just wanted to finally, before I open up for questions, if anybody has any questions, just to give you a view of what sort of, I guess, benefits there are of being in this industry or in a tech vendor role. This is very much skewed towards a ServiceNow type organization, right? A tech vendor in this community, in this tech industry. And I was thinking about this the other day in terms of, what is it like working for ServiceNow? What's it like working for? I used to work for Cisco and a few other organizations. I think these things are really consistent for me in terms of my experiences over the many decades, right? The first thing is that there's always availability of jobs. There's always a flexibility of different types of jobs you can do. Working in the tech industry doesn't mean that you need to be a coder. You can be in marketing, you can be in sales, you can be in finance, you could be a part of the supply chain. There's so many roles that are required in the tech industry. It's not just a coding role or an IT developer role. There are so many roles that are available in the tech industry. And I just want to shift to the right. There's the keep learning part is really important because it's one of the only industries that I've worked in that I know of where actually you can be a marketing person today, and you can, through the learning that the organization provides, you can be a software developer tomorrow, or you can be in sales today, and you can decide that you actually want to be a project engineer tomorrow, because the organizations offer all of the learning and the support that you need to be able to enable you to reskill to try new jobs. And that's a real benefit in this organization. You can try new things, and that's really important because when you come into an industry, sometimes you come into an industry at a certain point, but that may not always be the point of destination for you. You may not feel totally happy, and the one thing that you need to be when you're in work, if you're going to be working for 30 odd years, is to be happy, to be content in your job. So being able to have the opportunity to navigate through learning to what your best job is really important. So that's really a good thing in the industry. The second thing is flexible working, and flexible working is tied with the work hard, play hard thing, right? Because people say, how can it be a flexible work when you're telling me that you have to work hard? I think the best answer that I can give to that is yesterday I started work yesterday with an email that I got from my boss asking me about something or another that I had to respond to immediately, and I got that email and responded to that email at 5:15 in the morning. In fact, I didn't respond to that email at 5:15 in the morning. He called me at 5:15 in the morning from Dubai. And then I came here. I did a full day of networking, which was great here. I then had a meeting at 5 p.m. For 2 hours here, so I had to do it locally because I couldn't get to an office. And then I had to go home. Now my home is in Oxford. Yes, there are black people in Oxford. So my home is in Oxford, and that is 2 hours away. So I started my day at 5 o'clock with a phone call from my boss, and I finished my day. I got home at 9 o'clock. about 9:30. And that's a long day. That's a really, really long day. And I felt like I worked relatively hard that day. And so that's the work hard part of it. The play hard part of it is that we're celebrating Black History Month this month. On Friday, last Friday, we had a lunchtime meeting in our offices where we did a lunch and learn session for Black History Month, and we shared a lot of experiences about, black communities. We played a lot of reggae. I'm from Jamaica, and other music. We did a lot of food, Caribbean food, African food. We played some games. We did a lot of really good fun. We had a lot of good fun. So we played hard as well, right? We did a bit of rum tasting. Who wants whiskey? We did a lot of rum tasting. It was a really, really great event. We played hard. And then the flexible working part of it is that I had a really long day yesterday. I'm probably going to have what turns out to be a long day today. And tomorrow afternoon, I'm signed off. I've got stuff to do. I'm taking my son to play tennis. I'm going to hopefully go out with my wife for a nice dinner, or early dinner, and then I'm going to meet my friends for some more rum. So I'm able to manage my time with flexibility to get stuff done that I need to get done, but also give myself time to get the stuff to get done, the things that I need to get done from a personal perspective. And I've seen that all the time, not just in ServiceNow, but in the tech community, where you have that flexibility to deliver on the outcomes that you need to deliver on for your work, but that doesn't mean 9 to 5. That doesn't mean you have to go to the office, do whatever you do, and then come back home at 5 o'clock. We have the ultimate flexibility in terms of what you do. That's a great thing to have in the tech industry. We pay well. I think when you come into an organisation like ServiceNow, where you're coming in to gain skills, you have a lot of advantages and benefits in terms of gaining those skills. And then over time, as you get more experience, you'll see that actually we pay really, really well. So it's an environment where you do get good compensation for what you do. Way higher than the average, whatever the average is in the UK. And then the final thing that I will say is that you do get the sense that you're building something, you're creating something, or you're working for something for the future. You do feel like actually you're contributing to something new, to some change, to some differences that's going to happen, that's going to impact organizations and impact people in the future. So it's a real motivating factor in terms of being able to actually work on things that you think are going to really contribute to the great body of innovation for the future. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say. I think I've said that in half an hour. Thank you very much. And the other thing that I wanted to say is that our booth is just behind you there. You can see our work makes the world work. So feel free to visit us. But I'm happy to take any questions, any observations even. They don't even need to be questions that anybody has.
Any questions?
Hi.
Hello.
So I joined your talk a little bit late, so I didn't catch your name. I'm so sorry.
My name's Alonzo Blackstock.
Okay, hi Alonzo. I'm Sherelle.
Hi Sherelle.
I work for a SaaS company as a talent sourcer.
Yep.
And similar to ServiceNow in that it's a tech vendor, if you will. So my question is along those lines. So I know obviously the tech vendor industry relies heavily on the purchasing power of its customers. How do you think ServiceNow is preparing for just the potential of customers kind of tightening their purse strings? Naturally, it will have an effect on the business. We've seen it with a lot of layoffs happening in the States and kind of starting to happen over here. I'm just wondering what you think the future looks like for tech vendors and whether customers still see the importance of partnering with us.
That's a really good question, and that's a really relevant question for today, for now, in terms of what we're going through, particularly in the UK. I mean, this is happening globally, and I think it's having also an impact specifically in the UK because the effects of the market dynamics means that it's actually more expensive for UK firms to buy US products, right? So, what they paid 2 months ago or a year ago has increased by 10, 15, 20% in the UK. So it's a real challenge to our industry. I think what I see in our industry is that our industry needs to get out of the tech area when they relate to customers and get into the outcomes place. So what we're trying to do is to is to stop talking so much about how wonderful our technology is and all the great things that our technology does and how we're the best of breed when it comes to our competition. And we need to start talking more about what value that we're going to give to you by doing this. What is the solution going to deliver to you? And we also, if you saw the value gap graph that I showed, and also how we're going to make sure that you get the benefits of that and not just leave you with the technology to sort it out yourself. So what I'm seeing is that organizations are having to work harder to really to really realize the value for the customer, not just in the sale, but in the delivery. What we also see is that we're seeing that also takes a longer time. So what we've seen over the past few months is that because we're having to do more, we're seeing the sales cycles lengthen, and that obviously has an impact in terms of salespeople get paid on quotas based on a particular quarter, right? So that's having a bit of a challenge. What we've not seen yet, certainly in ServiceNow, what we've seen is a scenario which we call when, not if. So we're not seeing customers question whether they're going to buy this. I think they seem to be committed to buy it when we go through that value conversation with them, but we still see it takes longer. It's a when. It's not an if, it's a when. I think companies that can't demonstrate the value at a business level, I think will be the organizations that struggle in our industry. And so, but I also see that most of our industry is really trying hard to do that. That would be my answer. I hope you see some of those things as well. Any other questions?
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi.
It's really weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it is really weird. Sorry, I joined the talk quite late as well.
No
but
problem.
From what
My
I
name's
heard,
Alonso.
Hi, Alonso. I'm Georgisha.
Thank you.
From what I did hear, it's amazing. I just want to ask. It's not really for myself. I'm in.
They
tech
all
at the
say
moment.
that.
No, the reason why I say this, I'm in tech at the moment.
Okay.
Not like an engineer. I'm a Scrum Master, but I've got friends that are trying to get into tech. So I wanted to know, like, how does somebody who's never doesn't have any experience in tech get into tech? Because I heard you talking about upskilling, and in my company they seem to do that as well. You don't need to come from like a tech background, but they're in-house internally.
Yeah.
But for external people, it's quite hard to get in without having this experience. Like you see it on the CV, we preferred like 2 years of whatever in that field. So what do you guys offer? I know you said training and things like that, but
Yeah.
what are you looking for
Yeah.
for somebody that wants to get in? I've got a friend that's doing engineering. She's like I wouldn't even say a junior. She's just doing her own kind of learning,
Yeah.
self-teaching, and she can't get her foot in the door.
Yeah.
So what,
I'm sorry, I misstated your name earlier.
yeah.
What's your name? Sorry.
Georgisha.
Georgisa. Sorry, I
Yeah.
said the wrong thing, so
No,
apologies.
that's fine.
So that's a really good question. So I think a lot of the recruitment that we've done over the decades have been we're trying to find the best people. We have this thing in ServiceNow where we say we want 8s and 9s. We want to hire the best people with the best experience, with the best qualifications. And what you should also know is that generally speaking, that when people hire in most organizations, I think 90% or more of hires are referrals, people that other people know. So that also is a big reason why other people get blocked out, right? Because they're just hiring people that they know. But we're in a situation that we just don't have enough people in the market. So organizations, my organization, I'll tell you a bit about what we're doing, are really scrambling to find other ways to actually bring more and different people in the market. One of the problems that we've always had is that we've always been looking at the same place to hire the people. So we've always been looking at these particular types of universities, these different particular types of university educated people. We've been looking to hire people that work for these organizations that are similar to ours, and that really just blocks out whole communities. So we've changed that. There's 3 things that we're doing that I think are relevant, that may be relevant. Some of them may be relevant. One is that we've really starting to drive a program around giving people experience in our organization. So we're doing internships. So we're like working with our recruitment teams to actually offer 70 internships in the future year, right? So to give people that are doing degrees the opportunity to really kind of like get experience of work. Our internship program is very much a precursor to a graduate program. So we're not just trying to give people experience, but we want to take them on a journey with us. Second thing that we're doing is offering graduate places. Those 2 things all are predicated on a degree and going through a degree program that not everybody is. So the third thing that we're doing, which I think is really exciting, is that we are focus on reskilling people. So we've got a talent program called the Next Gen program, where we bring people that aren't in our industry, that don't have our skills, that they may be factory workers, they may be managers in Argos or whatever, and we are committing to train them in a Next Gen program and give them the skills that they need. It's a 15-week program where we give them the basics of IT, plus then we layer on ServiceNow technology on top, and then we make them available for work. We've been doing that for 2 years. And every time that we've done it, the 90% of the people have ended up in jobs in our ecosystem. That's either with us or with our partners. So I think that program, called the Next Gen program, would be a really good thing for some of the people that you know, and I can talk to you about that a bit more.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you.
I think we've got time for just one more question, because there's one lady here that did have her last question. Sorry, if that's okay. I'm on time. I've got plenty of time.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Dotun. I actually work in management consulting, which I think has a similar problem as tech. I work in customer experience and digital. I find that there's less of a diversity issue at junior levels and more at senior levels. And it sounded like a lot of those initiatives you just went through are geared towards the more junior level.
Yep.
How do you go about recruiting at senior levels in a targeted way that does not come across to people across the organization as discrimination, as in, we see that there's a gap in senior female black leadership and we want to plug that gap, but we can't go into the market and only advertise for one type of person. So is there a way ServiceNow is tackling?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I don't think I've got a whole answer for that. If you looked at the one of the points I made before, you saw at the bottom in the US, the racial equity employment was 16%, which is higher than the 13% average in the US. At the bottom it's 13%, but at the top with higher level executives it's 2%. So you're absolutely right, we have a challenge. I think the challenge with hiring at the top is that you're building, you're trying to select from the same pool of people in the industry, and there's not enough. So if I hire a load of black senior managers or senior leaders, I'm just taking them from Google or Amazon or Oracle. I'm not increasing the pool, right? So that's a challenge, and you don't really change the numbers or the percentages here. So one of the things that we are doing is actually trying to find people from the bottom up. But what we're also doing is we're trying to actually get our people to be more mobilized, trying to get our people up. So we've got, for example, a black in tech cohort that we're running now in ServiceNow, where we're taking about 40 executives, and we're actually giving them training and development to be future leaders. So what we're trying to do is work internally to actually get our people to be leaders. And then the second thing is that it's actually my responsibility as a leader in ServiceNow to try to solve that problem by bringing more leaders in from my organization up, to hire more leaders and encourage my peers to actually network with those future leaders and hire them in their organization. So I don't think it's an easy answer, because I don't want to pull from my peers in the industry and make the problem harder for them but better for me. So I think we have to kind of like bring them up from our organization where the experience is already there. That would be my sense. Yeah.
Alonso, are you still around for people to kind of network with you?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm going to be over just behind the camera here. I'm going to be here for the rest of the evening. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Please, can we get a massive round of applause?